Earlier this year, I was probably just like you are right now. I was endlessly watching YouTube videos, poring over Facebook Marketplace, Car Gurus, and Auto Trader, hoping to stumble across the perfect F80 M3. I had it all figured out. I had done all the research. I watched Tommy L. Garage's amazing buyer's guide on the F80 M3. And the F80 M4. I could tell you about the F80 M3 inside and out. I could tell you what packages were desirable and which weren't. Pairing all that knowledge with my borderline unhealthy car search habits, I came across the perfect F80 in Orlando, Florida. I booked a flight the next day with my girlfriend. When I arrived at the dealership, I was greeted with a beautiful M3 competition in azurite black metallic. It was loaded with every single feature besides carbon ceramic brakes, and it had the factory M Performance package, which included the M Performance exhaust with carbon tips, carbon trim inside the vehicle, the M Performance decal on the side of the car, and carbon front splitters. From the factory, this was over a $90K car, and I had found it for a steal of a price. In my mind, I had found the unicorn of an M3, or at least I thought so. The moment I signed the paperwork and drove off with the car, I thought I had did everything right. Wrong. Little did I know, in that moment and on the nearly 30-hour drive on my way back home, I had dropped the ball. All that time and all that research just to drop the ball? How? Well, in this video, I will tell you how, and it's probably not in the way that you think. Let's dive into the video.
Yeah, now we want trying to figure how we did it with no cosign.
If you're new to the channel, my name is Isaiah and this is Zay's Garage. On this channel, we talk about all things BMW related. If it has a BMW roundel on it, we are talking about it. If you're interested in BMWs and want to see more content like this, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you do not miss a future upload. Now, before we start, I don't want to completely trash the experience that I had buying this car. I mean, look at this car. It's absolutely beautiful, but this car does have some dirty little secrets, and we're gonna find out about those later in the video. Now, let's get started with the very first point. Many people who are buying an M3, an M2, or an M4 are typically buying their first real sports car. For many people, the M3 is often a gateway sports car to more exotic cars like the Audi R8 or a Porsche 911. There is certainly a difference to how you approach buying these cars as opposed to a Toyota Corolla, which many of us consider to be an every single day car. And if you're like me, who has an unhealthy car addiction, I can't stop buying cars, you will likely end up selling your M3 to upgrade to maybe an Audi R8 or a 911 or maybe another BMW. And in that case, you are gonna wanna find a car that is in the best condition possible so that when you try to sell it in the future, you can get a good deal or a return on your investment. The area I dropped the ball in was ensuring that I had bought the best example possible for this resale. First, I want to talk about a proper pre-purchase inspection. Now, I had done a pre-purchase inspection on this car, but not in the way that I should have. I made the mistake of having a pre-purchase inspection done on this car at a shop that did not see M3s or exotic BMWs on a regular basis. It is a completely different breed of BMW. When the shop that was not familiar with M3s looked at this car, all they saw was an absolute gem. They could not believe that I had bought an M3 into their shop where they're normally working with 3 Series and older BMW. For this reason, they missed a lot of things I think a true M car enthusiast or M car mechanic would have seen. It turns out that the car had previous repairs in different places. The bodywork that was done poorly, and it reflected in the paint. The paint itself was in horrible condition. The previous owner of this car did not know anything about automotive detailing. There were swirl marks and scratches and marring, all evidence that points to the owner using automatic car washes with bristles. There were parts missing and damaged, but to this repair shop, none of this stuff mattered because it was an F80 M3. All of this could have been avoided through a proper pre-purchase inspection. So I had got a botched pre-purchase inspection. It can't be that bad, right? Wrong, it gets even worse. The second thing that you want to look at is the mileage when you're buying a sports car. Now, I had purchased this car with 34,000 miles. And if we're looking at the used car market, a car with that amount of miles is pretty good. That's not too new, but it's also not too old. You're like right in the middle. But when it comes to cars like these, that's a little bit meh. Enthusiasts are some of the pickiest people when they buy their cars. Seeing a car with 30 to 40,000 miles on it can be a little bit iffy. It also doesn't help when I love to drive the wheels off of my car. Cumulatively, I put about 10,000 miles on my car over 6 months. So currently I'm sitting here with an F80 M3 that has nearly 50,000 miles on it. And once you get to that point, enthusiasts basically want to run.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
If I could go back and do this again, I would have probably bought a M3 that had between 10 and 30K miles for a 2017 to 2018 model year. And if it was a 2015 or a 2016, I probably would have aimed for maybe 30 to 50K miles. Now there's a little bit of leeway between the model years, but typically people who are looking for the newer model year are gonna want that lower mileage. And if you're looking for an older model year, you can maybe make some exceptions to the rule. Now I'm not saying by any means that my opinion on mileage is written in stone or is a fact, but from what I've seen from trying to go and get appraisals on the car and get other people's opinions on it, it seems that mileage is just a little bit high. When I was purchasing the car, I thought, okay, you know, the DCT on this car isn't that bad. And you know, I also want my girlfriend to be able to drive it. Well, that's another area where I wish if I could go back, I'd probably be like, let's go for the 6-speed. Now, the DCT by all means is an amazing transmission, but there's something about it that kind of makes it ubiquitous when we're talking about the F8X series of cars. People tend to opt for the 6-speed manual transmission. It gives you more of a connected feeling to the car, and if I'm being honest, the DCT can be a little bit jerky and can be finicky. And being able to roll your own gears gives you that control, and it also gives you that rarity when you're buying one of these M3s, especially if you're trying to sell it in the future. And then next we have the color. So yes, this is an individual color, which is indeed very special. However, this color is appreciated for its subtlety. What I found is brighter color M3s are more desirable and command more attention on the car market. It's simply because these colors are just a little bit more eye-catching and loud. And the same thing goes with the interior color. I opted for the black interior when in all reality I should have looked for a more rare color like a Shakir orange or a saddle brown. And then the topic of modifications, and luckily mine wasn't modified, but I just want to throw this in here real quick. Don't buy modded M3s. You just don't know what has been done to the car. You don't know who touched the car. You don't know what amateur mechanic said, hey, let's put downpipes on this thing, woo! And then they mess something up in the exhaust system. Just don't play that game. And that's one area that I didn't drop the ball. So next, I wanna talk about budgeting for the M3. And the biggest thing that I think I can tell you when it comes to buying a car of this caliber is don't cheap out. The truth is, you are not gonna find a bargain on high quality examples of this car. It just doesn't happen. Except that one time that guy bought an M3 CS from CarMax because they marked it as a M3 competition. But that is an exception to the rule. When I was buying my F80 M3, I made the mistake of trying to find a bargain. That is what led me to Orlando, Florida, out of all of my search online, to this dealership that had it priced just a little bit lower than what similar competitors were pricing their cars for. The fact of the matter is I'm already paying an arm and a leg for this car. What does it matter if I go just a couple more thousand over what I wanted to spend? Especially when it's for the appropriate spec that you may sell in the future. Now, don't get me wrong, you can find a good deal, but I don't think we should be trying to find bargains, because if you're trying to find a bargain, you are going to get what I think is a less optimal example of this car. Keeping everything I just said in mind, you also have to consider where you're buying the car from. I bought my M3 from off lease only, which apparently, after doing some research, is a sketchy place to buy cars, especially high-end cars. The reason that they offer the bargains that they do is because they do some odd things to get these cars on their lots. For example, this car had a clean Carfax, but the pre-purchase inspection that I had done later by a more official mechanic revealed that it had some damage. Now, how could that be? There's something definitely afoot with how this dealership does business. So with that being said, I recommend that you buy these cars from a reputable dealer. Somebody who deals with real sports cars, or a BMW dealership that is offering it as certified pre-owned. You can't go wrong with certified pre-owned cars. So after all this, if you still didn't get anything from this video, I ask that you please consider what I'm about to say. The last and most important thing to remember when you are buying a car like this is be patient. And if you didn't hear what I just said, I will say it again. Be patient. I know it is hard. It is like trying to remain abstinent before you get married. Anyways, you will not find your dream spec of M3 if you are in a rush. I rushed, and if I'm honest, I did not get exactly what I wanted. I made compromises on a few things in this car, namely the interior color. I wanted Shakir orange. And truthfully, I wanted a more special individual color. I skimped out on finding a proper mechanic to do my pre-purchase inspection. I skipped out on the manual transmission. These are all things that are going to cost me in the long run. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that there's somebody out there that would want to buy this M3 because M3s are absolutely amazing. But if we're talking from a perspective of making sure that you get a solid return on your investment when you're buying this car, you want to make sure that you do everything you can. And I'm hoping that what I just shared here can help you not make the same mistakes that I made when buying this car. Now, you're probably saying, well, Isaiah, buying a car, it's a depreciating asset. So if you're smart, you should be trying to do everything that you can to make sure that that car holds its value. And maybe you don't have any plans to sell your M3. Maybe your M3 is your end-all be-all dream car. Then that's fine. I think going for a less than optimal F80 M3 is fine. And if you want to approach it that way, I am not judging you at all. The truth is, the F80 is probably one of the most widely produced M3s in history, and I'm talking from a production numbers run. So you will find an M3. Will it be the perfect M3 that every enthusiast is coveting over? Maybe not, but you will find a solid example that runs mechanically and is in a good condition from exterior perspective. However, good luck when you sell it.